Today I want to talk about how do you make money as an adventurer. It's a question I get asked lots. People see my website, they see that I've made a career for myself as an adventurer, and they want to know exactly where the money comes from. Firstly though, I want to challenge two misconceptions. The first is that to be a professional adventurer, you have to have done some massive, epic, record-breaking adventure, and it's not true. There are adventurers like that, but there are also adventurers who are promoting things like going wild swimming on your lunch break or going away at the weekend on family camping trips. So find your space in the adventure world, whether it's inspiring to be a hiker or rock climber or weekend adventurer, and get that niche and own it. The second thing is that there's no money in adventuring. And I think this is really nonsense, because I see a lot of adventurers making a lot of money. I know people that get paid £20,000 for giving a 1-hour talk on stage. So there is money there to be tapped into. I think it's difficult to make money because as an adventurer, you're basically setting yourself as a brand and setting up a business, and of course that it comes with its challenges and the income isn't guaranteed, but the money is there to tap into. For most adventurers starting out, it's going to be important that you build an online space for yourself. You are basically going to become a public figure, so that means you're going to need a website and social media platforms to share what you do. Now, the bigger you grow that, the easier it is to make an income, and whatever avenue you want to tap into, it is really important that you have that online space. And that's why so many adventurers start out in other jobs and they build their online presence at the weekends and in the evenings in their spare times, because it's a bit of a slow process and it normally takes a couple of years. So let's talk about the 5 biggest ways that I see adventurers making money. The first is, I've mentioned it briefly already, is giving talks. That's going into events, schools, conferences, companies, and talking about your adventures and motivating people. I know lots of people that only make money through giving talks, so they do this all the time, you know, multiple times a week, and you can get paid anywhere from a couple of £100s to, you know, the real top end of the scale is tens of thousands of pounds. I give a few talks each year, maybe like 10 to 20 talks. It brings in a little bit of money, but it's not an area that I'm specifically tapping into at the moment. The second biggest way I see adventurers making money is by organising expeditions and events. This is my biggest revenue each year. I set up an online women's adventure community called Love Her Wild, and each year I organise all-female expeditions all over the world. You could also not just organise expeditions, but you maybe could organise a big festival each year, or maybe a series of evening events. And there are lots of different options there to tap into once you've got that audience grown. The third way that I see adventurers making money is via writing. So that could be pitching articles to magazines and newspapers, and obviously you get paid for that. It could be having a monthly column in a magazine, and of course writing a book. I don't know anyone that's making money just from doing that, but I do know people that have that as a chunk of their income each year. Fourth option is sponsorship. So that is a brand or a company wanting to work with you because you've got an online presence and they want to be associated with you. Sometimes that could be for a project, so for a certain amount of time, or for delivering you know, a certain adventure, for example. But sometimes companies will offer to pay you a set amount for a year to be an ambassador, and maybe you will wear their gear every time you go outdoors, hiking or running or whatever. Sponsorship has been an important income for me. Pretty much every adventure or expedition I do now, I will get financial sponsorship where appropriate brand or company will pay me a chunk of money to deliver the adventure in question, and normally in return they will get exposure, whether it's through me writing blogs or posting on social media. While that doesn't actually bring in much of an income, because I normally use the money to pay for whatever the adventure or expedition is, it does help keep my yearly costs really low, because then during that chunk of time my food, my housing and anything else is covered. I also use sponsorship a lot through my blog, so going on you know, adventure activities in exchange for blogging, and they'll normally cover the cost of travel as well. So sponsorship has been important for me growing my career. And finally, number 5 is becoming a presenter. So this is something I haven't pursued myself and not tried myself, so I can't can't give much of an input into presenting, but there are lots of adventure presenters out there making documentaries, appearing on TV, and being spokespersons for adventure. Think people like, you know, Ben Fogle or Pip Stewart. There are also other ways that you can make an income, because once you've built yourself as a public figure and you have that online following, there are lots of different options available to you. There are people nowadays who are just Instagrammers, so if you have an adventure Instagram account and it gets massive, you can make money just through posting adverts or being paid to go to events or try things, and to provide exposure via your Instagram account. The same can be said for YouTube. Another option could be to become a podcaster. Maybe you start a podcast with your tips on adventuring or sharing inspirational stories, or you could sell a product or maybe an ebook and use your following to sell that product online. Now, if you really don't want to be a public figure and to have that online space, the only way I can see you can make a career as an adventurer is through expedition leading. So that would involve getting the qualifications in whatever it is that you want to lead, whether it's kayaking trips or hiking trips or rock climbing, getting your qualifications and then starting to work for other companies, or maybe setting up your own company where you are taking people outdoors on adventures and you are leading those. But I think for everything else, you need a public space. You have to have that online presence. Even if you want to write a book, it's expected nowadays that you have a Twitter account or an Instagram account and people there ready to buy whatever it is that you are selling. I hope that's provided a little bit of an insight into how you make money as an adventurer. I think it's really important to mention that most professional adventurers I know are juggling lots of different things, so they don't just have one income. They normally try 2 or 3 different ways to make money and they juggle those. And if you are starting out, my biggest tip would be just keep focusing on building that audience, building your online presence and finding your niche and owning that space. I hope that's been helpful, and I look forward to sharing more about my life as an adventurer very soon.